The film, Boyka, Undisputed, begins the story with the fighter Boyka. After he got out of the prisons in Russia that we saw in the previous parts, we see Boyka settling in Ukraine, but he still has some issues to resolve. He did not leave fighting during this time, and an illegal match takes place. Boyka enters it, and when he does, he faces a very strong fighter. But Boyka was stronger than him in skill, in experience, or with more time. Very short, he might win and take the match. But now let's return to the prison. The Russian who was in there with Boyka, and we see that this prison has a new wrestling champion, and this huge person enters against this wrestler. Indeed, the first round begins, and here the wrestler starts hitting the Russian beast named Kushmar, but it didn't affect Kushmar. After that, Kushmar took him down, climbed on top, and started. He hit him until he died by his own hand. But now let's go back to Boyka and see him. He went to the church to donate aid, and when he reached the priest asked him if he thought that with his donations, God would forgive him and accept them from him. So Boyka asked him why, and he said, because you played illegal matches and ruined a lot of young lives. Boyka told him he has a talent, and he needs to take advantage of it. And at that moment the priest responded to him and said, what do the family and relatives of the wrestler who died feel when he was killed by your hand? And how do you feel when you see his children without a father? It's heartbreaking. Many were affected, but when he left for training or at that moment, his manager comes to him and says, I told you it was a legal match. He cried, feeling extremely happy, and told him, let's go now so we can fight. And indeed they went, and when they arrived, the manager comes to the wrestler and tells him that this is a qualifying match. If you win, you will qualify for the championship and your opponent will be strong. Very much so, not to be underestimated. So Boyka tells him not to worry because I will break his bones or win against him. And the second match begins between Boyka and another wrestler, and the match was very intense between the two sides. And here Boyka overcomes him, hitting him hard, and he broke his bones. But the wrestler did not give up, and remained determined to win. He went for Boyka and began to strike him, but Boyka countered with 6 hits. He hit him until he fell to the ground, and then his opponent returned. I kept telling him not to return because if he did, he would get hurt. But this wrestler did not listen and prepared for the fight. So he went back at Boyka and delivered the knockout blow, winning the match. The match was a victory for Boyka, and he moved on to a new competition afterwards. Boyka's manager comes and congratulates him on qualifying for the next stage, and then all the competition organizers come. They all want to congratulate him and encourage him, but coincidentally he goes out to see his opponent, and his condition was critical and difficult. He asks the nurse about his situation, and the nurse tells him that his condition is critical, and he might die soon because he had internal bleeding and organ damages. His body, and when the next day comes, Boyka goes to the manager to ask about his opponent and how his condition turned out. But the manager is surprised when he says to him that your opponent has died. And Boyka asks about his country or general information. So the manager tells him that this opponent is from Russia. He is married and has children, and he is sitting with his mom and dad. And he goes and takes out his bag. And every time he opens it, he only sees a picture of his wife with a note. It has information, the wrestler who died or a message that he married. And we know that this wrestler who died is named Victor. Then Boyka, the male, the priest's words, and according to the regret and feeling defeated by his opponent, he asks the manager to arrange a passport for him and book him the nearest flight to Russia. But his manager refuses and tells him that he is wanted by justice in Russia, and if he goes, the Russian government will not let him go, and he will not be able to return. After that, he still insists on responding and says, you must book for me, under any circumstances and no matter what. Then he leaves. Meanwhile, the day of Victor's funeral arrives, held at the church, attended by his wife, whose name is Alma. During this time, a man approaches her and asks her to settle the debts that her husband had, because his debts were very high. However, she tells him that her husband has passed away, and she has nothing. And he asks her to work with him for many years until she pays off her husband's debts, and indeed she agrees, but we know that she was hesitant because this man is dangerous. This person gives her a date to come for, and in the meantime, Boyka's manager brings you a passport and gives it to him, saying, be careful in Russia because everyone is looking for you. But Boyka does not pay attention to his words, and goes on.